We're reading from a text from Gregory of Nyssa's writings, and with an introduction by Jean Danielou. And this is a publication by St. Vladimir's Press, which was published in 2000, the last printing, 2014. Um, the meaning of perfection is taken from the life of Moses. You earnestly requested, my dear friend, that I should set down for you some account of the life of perfection. And your aim was clearly that, if you found in my discussion what you sought, you would take the grace revealed in my words and apply it to your own life. Yet in both of these points I find difficulty, for I feel that either to describe perfection or to realize it in my life is beyond my powers. Nor am I perhaps alone in this view. Many great men, even among those who excel in virtue, would admit that such a goal is impossible. But as I do not wish to give the impression, as the psalmist says, of having fear where there was no fear, Psalm 13, verse 5, I am going to set forth more clearly what I mean. Now, in all things which can be measured in the order of sensual things, perfection is always bounded by certain definite limits, as, for example, in the case of extension, whether it be continuous or discrete. Every quantitative measurement presupposes its own proper limits. Anyone who considers, for example, the cubit or the number 10 will see that their perfection consists in their having a beginning and an end. But with regard to virtue, we know from the Apostle that the one determination of perfection is its not having any limit. For the divine Apostle, a man who was vast and profound in spirit, in his course on the path of virtue, constantly stretched forward to the things that lay ahead. Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. To stop in his course he felt was unsafe. Why? Because every good is by its very nature unlimited and is bounded only by the presence of its contrary, as life is bounded by death and light by darkness. Thus, everything that is wholly good ceases only at the point where its opposite begins. Thus, just as the end of life is the beginning of death, so too, to stop on the path of virtue is to begin on the path of evil. Hence, my statement was not incorrect when I said that it was impossible to divine perfection. For we have shown that what can be contained within limits is not virtue. Now, my saying that it is impossible for those who pursue a life of virtue ever to attain perfection, I shall also explain in the following way. The sovereign and highest good, whose nature is goodness, this is divine nature itself, and whatever perfection can be conceived in such a nature, this he is called and is. Now, since we have shown that the only limitation of virtue is vice, and since the divine nature excludes anything that is contrary to it, then it follows that the divine nature is conceived without bound or limit. But the soul that pursues true virtue actually participates in God Himself, because He is infinite virtue. Now, since those who have come to know the highest good desire completely to share in it, And since this good is limitless, it follows that their desire must necessarily be coextensive with the limitless, and therefore have no limit. Thus, it is absolutely impossible to attain perfection, for as I have said, it cannot be confined within limits, and the only determination of virtue is that it is boundless. How then can a man reach the boundary he is looking for if it does not exist? But though my argument has shown that we cannot attain our goal, we must not, for all that, neglect the divine command. Be you perfect, as your heavenly Father is perfect. Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. For though it may not be possible completely to attain the ultimate and sovereign good, it is most desirable for those who are wise to have at least a share in it. We should then make every effort not to fall short utterly of the perfection that is possible for us, and to try to come as close to it and possess as much of it as possible. For it may be that human perfection consists precisely in this constant growth in the good.